Hey, what is up guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Gran Turismo 7 update 1.46. It's that time once again where I bring you all of the new events from the latest update to GT7. Now in terms of the events themselves, it's very much in the theme that has been here for 2024 really, in which we get 3 events with each single event aiming to cater towards one of these single vehicles in the game. It's pretty much been this way for every single update of 2024. So let's have a look at event number 1. This is at Alsace Village on the reverse course layout for the Japanese Clubman Cup 550. So in terms of the details, it is a 3-lap race with 12 cars on the grid. Road car and professionally tuned category cars can enter. It must be from Japan. For first place it's 60,000 credits, second is 36,000 credits and 24k for third place. The Afila Prototype, Lancer Evo 4, GTO Twin Turbo and Silvia Spec R Aero S15 will be your main rival cars. BOP off. Car used must be a garage car, car settings are allowed, mechanical damage none, shortcut off and wall collision off. So it's very obvious what this event is here to cater for, and that is for the Afila Prototype, which came with this update. I'm using this car completely standard, so it is on the exact compound of tyres that it originally comes on. Also for all of these events I'll be running it on the hardest difficulty and trying to keep as close as possible to the PP rating for that event. Now obviously here it is 550, so I'm obviously going to be using a car as close to possible as that. Now the Afila can't get upgrades really, the only thing you can do is change the compound of tyre. I didn't want to go ahead and do that and make it too easy, and I feel like in all honesty it really was very much catered towards this car. It made the difficulty in that kind of sweet spot region where it's challenging enough to make it enjoyable and actually feel like a full race, but not too difficult to the point where it just be frustrating and the brand new car itself that the event's catering towards would become absolutely useless. So again, in terms of the Afila, it was actually quite an enjoyable event. Some of the AI were definitely a mixed bag. Some of them were very slow and others were actually quite a bit of a challenge. It's just a very strange one. You'll sort of have such a spread out grid of cars that you don't know whether the next AI up the road is going to be an absolute walkover or they will actually put up a bit of a fight. Now one thing I did notice, I felt that this event really fell back into the original way that GT7 was running its events, where you were sort of doing the chase the rabbit thing. Once you get up to P2 you'll probably notice there is a major gap to the leader of the pack, which is obviously the other Afila Prototype in this race. So bit frustrating that it was so spread out. You'd find yourself kind of overtaking a bunch of cars, having a nice battle and then having to wait a good amount of time till you get to the next set of cars. So eventually we did manage to catch up to the first place Afila. We had a nice little on-track battle for around about half a lap, eventually getting the move done and dusted, and at that point it was all about trying to build the gap and get the event over and done with, which we did, winning by around about 2 seconds or just over. So a nice easy first place in the end with a bit of a challenge throughout and obviously having to chase down the leader. Overall the time on this event with the car that it is aimed for was a 6-minute 55.619 and a fastest lap of a 2-minute 17.847, which was set on the second lap. In terms of the payout for this one, it really isn't too bad actually. So in that 6 minutes you're going to take away 90,000 credits with first place and the clean race bonus. Overall it is a very easy event to get that bonus, so you can pretty much expect to get that 50% bonus credits on top. So event number 1 of the update, actually not too bad, very much like the one that was catered for the Lamborghini Urus of the previous update. It actually felt very catered towards that car. It was a nice challenge without being too much or too easy, and I feel like this event really did suit the Afila down to the ground. I am not usually a fan of this track at all, but overall I did find myself having fun. Just unfortunately once again the event is just too short, just like the Blue Moon Speedway one that was aimed at the Lamborghini Urus in the previous update. Overall, not too bad. Let's move on to event number 2, and that is going to be obviously catering towards the Chevrolet Chevelle SS454. So event number 2 of the update is the FR American Challenge 550. This time we're at Trial Mountain reverse layout. Now I'm not usually a huge fan of this, but let's have a look at the overview. It is again a 3-lap event with 10 cars on the grid. It must be a road car from the United States with an FR drivetrain. First is 56,000 credits, second 33,600, and third is 22,400. Your main rivals will be the Chevelle SS, Sierra RS500 Cosworth, Trans Am and Super B. BOP off, must be a garage car, car settings allowed, mechanical damage none, shortcut off, and again with the wall penalties that is also off. So in terms of the event, this is very much obviously aimed towards a Chevelle. However, you would have probably noticed if you went for the stock Chevelle when you first took it out of the Legends dealership and tried to use it here, it would get absolutely murdered. Now there is a reason for that, because the tyre compound that they use for that car is just absolutely terrible out of the box for it. It really doesn't suit the massive amount of power the Chevelle has, so I had to make some upgrades to get it more towards the 550 pp target, or I guess recommendation for this event. So to do this, I slapped on a set of sports mediums. I also had the racing suspension installed as well, and that pretty much took me up to the 550 limit, or I guess recommendation once again. So this really did give me a nice driving Chevelle. In fact, it completely transformed the car. A car that struggled to put all its power down to a car that really felt like it was becoming its own kind of thing in GT7, and really the way that you'd expect the muscle cars to actually be. I didn't put any power upgrades on or anything like that. It just became this amazing car to drive, and again I actually found myself having fun. Whilst I'm not a big fan of the reverse layout of Trial Mountain, and I'm not a fan of the sprint style races that these are, I did find that a grid littered with classic American muscle cars and a very fast charging Dodge Viper GTS going through the pack as well was an absolute great time. Again, I feel like I made it maybe just a slightly bit too easy, so if you want my personal recommendation for a PP rating, I'd say about 500 to 520 is the sweet spot if you want to make it difficult enough where it is a challenge and doesn't get too easy towards the end. As you can see, in the end we had around about a 7-second gap. We did manage to take first place relatively easily. In terms of overall times, very close to the first event that we saw, 6-minute 55.585 as total time taken. Fastest lap was set on the third and final lap with a 2-minute 16, pretty much dead. In terms of the payout, it is 84,000 credits with the clean race bonus, so paying 6,000 credits less than the one with the Afila. Again, I'm assuming this one's supposed to be sort of the lightest event of the bunch, but certainly an enjoyable event if you absolutely get the settings right on that Chevelle. I didn't edit it too much, again just suspension changes as well as putting a different compound of tyre on. I don't get why Polyphony want to use comfort tyres when in reality for me they feel more like drift tyres for drift cars than actual performance cars. Don't get me wrong, I get it's an old American muscle car, but those comfort compound of tyres just cannot handle the ridiculous amount of power from standard that the Chevy Chevelle gives out. So again, if you do want to make it more enjoyable, I do recommend either sports hards or sports mediums. It just makes the car drive much better, as well as the fully customizable racing suspension to be able to actually get around corners. It's a little bit boat-like for my liking in its original form, but a great car nonetheless, and overall a decent fun time, but again a shame that it is just so short and over and done with in a blink of an eye. Really hoping that we get some longer events catering towards American muscle cars a little bit later on down the line. So let's move into the third and final event of the update. We've obviously had the Afila and the Chevelle so far, so obviously this one is catering towards the Skoda VGT. It's the return of the Vision Gran Turismo Trophy, this time over at Grand Valley Highway 1. Now it's a little bit different this time. We're going to have 5 laps for this event, 16 cars on the grid. It must be a Vision Gran Turismo car, and there is a PP limit actually set in stone, 850 or less. First is 80,000 credits, second is 48,000, and third is 32,000. Main rivals are obviously the Skoda VGT, Jaguar VGT Roadster, Porsche VGT Spider, and the Peugeot VGT. BOP is off, car used must be a garage car, car settings are allowed. Not like you'll really need them with VGT cars, which are very much set in their way. Mechanical damage is none, shortcut penalty off, and wall collision penalty once again off. So let's get this event underway. Now I'm probably going to get a lot of flack for this, but I actually do like the Vision Gran Turismo Trophy events. In fact, I do find that it's quite fascinating seeing some of these ridiculous concepts all on the same track at the same time. I really do love the spectacle that comes with it, and well, it gave me use to use a Skoda VGT. Typically they pay out pretty fairly for the amount of time it takes, but once again falls into the issue of the event just feels too short. I just wish they were longer and actually made use of all these concepts that the game's starting to get in. Again, there seems to be an influx of them over the last, I guess, 4 to 5 months, but again, Polyphony just doesn't want to seem to get events to cater towards them. If you actually go and use the Skoda VGT in any of the, I guess, fuel consumption events or charge events, whatever you want to call it, where it will consume its battery, this thing will run out inside 2 laps, and although it does recharge under braking, it's not enough to actually make the car useful long term. However, I'll talk more about that when I talk about the cars. But in terms of the event overall, it was relatively easy. Now I did actually have to add a bit of ballast to the Skoda just to get it to enter this event, as it comes in typically just over 850 as standard, but it was still a very good time to drive it. It actually drives surprisingly well, and the event itself was actually quite fun. Again, I don't hate the VGT Trophy itself. So in terms of the event, it was 8 minutes 41.612. I got a gap to P2 of 3.5 seconds. Fastest lap was on lap 3 of a 1 minute 43. Overall, we're going to take away 120,000 credits with the clean race bonus for this one, so the best paying, also the longest as well, of the bunch. Not too bad to finish off, and unfortunately that's going to be it for all of the events from update 1.46. The trend continues once again of 3 events per update. One of the events will cater to one of the cars that comes with the update, and really that's your lot. It's unfortunate because I actually feel like these cars do have potential. I don't outright hate them, I'll be totally honest here. Yes, the EVs, yes, their use is limited, but actually in terms of driving them, they were actually rather fun. So again, it's unfortunate that Polyphony don't just get events to cater to these cars. In fact, I wouldn't feel like the track or new track or lack of new track problem would be such a big deal if they actually made pre-existing events to the tracks that are already in there that made the majority of the cars in game actually have some use. And that's really where I feel like we stand with GT at the moment. It's all about the fact that Polyphony are just not making use of what they're putting in game. One single event of 5 minutes in length is not enough to get people to want to come back each and every update. For me, if I wasn't doing this as, you know, YouTube or anything like that, then I probably just wouldn't have bothered. I'd have just skipped a few months and then kind of you know, came back a little bit later down the line and, you know, took part in, you know, multiple events, because it would have felt like the content would have actually been worth it at that point. So there we go, update 1.46 events, and well, there's my opinion as well, just not enough of them. And I'm assuming you guys are probably all going to say the same down below. However, just let me know your thoughts in the comments. Massive thank you for watching. I will see you in the next one. Big thank you to my channel members. Take care guys, peace.